Friday, September 2nd edition of the Carolina Weather Video. I'm meteorologist Matthew East. A whole lot to talk about with you. We have Tropical Depression 13 in the Gulf, Katia out in the Atlantic Ocean, and a growing consensus here that it looks like we're going to have a cool, rainy period of weather as we get into next week. So let's get right into the model data here. Here's the upper air chart this afternoon. Currently have a ridge sitting over the Ohio Valley back into the Ozarks. That is kind of trapped Tropical Depression 13 beneath it. There's a significant trough about to carve itself out, though. As we get into Sunday morning, there's the look off the European. Tropical Depression 13 or Tropical Storm Lee, whatever the case may be, sitting there with the close to the Louisiana coast. And then we go further out in time, and there's going to be some degree of interaction with that trough approaching and that tropical system from the Gulf. Also notice here comes Katia from the east. And then as we get on out to Saturday of next week, the 10th of September, Katia getting ever closer to the coast on the modeling. And I still think it's quite wise to continue to leave open the possibility of some type of East Coast interaction. I've kind of said that for quite a while now, that I was not ready to just buy that out-to-sea solution, and I'm certainly not ready to buy it at this point either. I'll get into Katia in just a moment. Look at this. I cannot remember seeing a rain bullseye like this on this 5-day precipitation chart here from the HPC. That is 24 inches of rain in southeastern Louisiana. Now, it'll be interesting when they update this product later today. I think they're really going to have to start to beef up the totals up into the Carolinas as well, based on some of the data I am seeing this morning. Today, I don't see a whole lot on the GFS, but I do think, once again, like yesterday, there's going to be a few showers and thunderstorms meandering around from time to time this afternoon and this evening. At least a few isolated storms possible tomorrow, too. And it's going to be pretty hot. Some low to even maybe some mid-90s at times in some Piedmont spots today and tomorrow. All right, Sunday. Looks like Sunday during the day will be much the same. Maybe a couple of showers or storms, but it does look like the better rain chances will begin to spread in Sunday night toward Monday morning. Here's the GFS for Monday. And what you have happening here is an approaching cold front that is drawing up that moisture from the tropical system in the Gulf of Mexico. And exactly how those features interact will determine how much rain we see around here. But it's looking more and more likely that we are going to see some good rains from this in much of the region. Here we are on, let's see, this will be Tuesday of next week, and that is a pretty chilly look overall for this time of year. It's a Canadian high pressure in the Great Lakes, and that is cold air damming, very evident on the GFS, and it's much the same on most of the other modeling too. So Tuesday looking like a relatively chilly, rainy type of day. There could be many Piedmont spots Tuesday that, if this is correct, could struggle to even hit 70 for an afternoon high temperature. Wednesday still looks like a good bit of rain around. And then as we get toward later next week, it really depends on how far the remnants of this tropical system have progressed and how that begins to interact with Katia. That is Katia approaching from the east there on this chart late Thursday. Now let's go to the European model. And it's much the same. This is Sunday evening. Your tropical system in the Gulf is very near the Louisiana coast. Moisture beginning to get drawn up our way. Here we are Monday, Tuesday. Look at that rain getting pulled on up into much of our region. And finally, Wednesday, still a lot of lingering shower activity around. So it's going to be a challenging forecast, and I wouldn't just go in whole hog yet that it's going to be a ton of rain, but I do think that's looking more and more likely that we're going to get some good rain totals across much of the region Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday or so of next week as that front approaches and begins to draw up some of that tropical moisture. Now let's shift gears completely to the tropics here. There's the overlook. You have Tropical Depression 13 in the Gulf of Mexico and Tropical Storm Katia out there in the Atlantic. Katia is really battling some shear that's taken a little bit of a toll on the system. Let's start with the Tropical Depression. That's the satellite imagery this morning, and it is not a healthy looking depression at all. Some shear affecting this system. And the big story with this tropical depression is not going to be winds, I don't think, or surf. It's going to be rain. Here's the spaghetti charts. This will meander for a few days before it gradually tries to get drawn up to the northeast. There's the intensity charts, and there's a decent chance this will become Tropical Storm Lee. An outside chance it may become a hurricane, but like I mentioned, there'll be some tropical storm conditions along the Gulf Coast for a few days, but the bigger story overall is definitely looking to be the rains. Here's the Hurricane Center forecast. And that's the general model consensus now. A very, very slow motion over the next few days before it begins to get drawn northward. And you have to remember, even though that is the actual center position from the NHC here on Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, this moisture will get drawn northeast from that approaching trough and cold front. All right, here is Katia this morning. And it's looking a little healthier. It's developed some intense convection near the center, but like I mentioned, it's really been battling some shear, and that weakened it down from a hurricane to a tropical storm. All right, there's the spaghetti charts. The one southern outlier here, this blue line, that is the UK Met model. Even if you throw that out, I think what we're going to look at is probably a turn to the northwest today, and then as more ridging builds in, probably a bend back toward the west. More on that in a moment. There's the intensity models. All of them forecast some gradual strengthening in coming days. Although it'll still battle shear for the next day or two, it would then probably get a more favorable environment thereafter for strengthening. There's the Hurricane Center forecast. They still bring this to a major hurricane, but not until Tuesday night or Wednesday of next week. And notice that little bit of a bend back to the west there, those last couple of points. So some of the specific model data here, this will be the Canadian model, and it brings Katia to basically between Bermuda and the Outer Banks by Friday evening. The GFS, that's getting pretty close. They're, again, between Bermuda and the Outer Banks by Friday. Before that, let's go a little bit earlier in the GFS run. This is at 168 hours, and I tell you, it's kind of an ominous look. Yes, you've got a weakness here that this will probably draw northward, but all it would take is this ridge to be a little bit further east to direct that toward the coast. And some signs on that in some of the modeling. Here's the Hurricane Wharf, has Katia as a very significant hurricane out at 126 hours east of the Bahamas. And the NOGAPS, and I will give the NOGAPS credit, I showed this yesterday. It was one of the first models to begin to show this other ridge rebuilding in. And again, if this ridge gets over top of Katia, it will direct it toward the coast. If this weakness stays in place, it draws it up the coast and probably offshore. And it is just way too soon to know which way that will go, but we definitely need to keep a close watch on Katia's progress into next week. All right, there you go. Let's talk about that. Is it for today. Everybody have a great holiday weekend, and God bless.